What that kid's doing there.
Is a kid?
Yep. And we're having wild rice with, well, I'm having strong woman tomato soup and cauliflower rice with buttermilk biscuit for a treat. And James is having tuna sandwich and stuff. So anyway, and then we're gonna talk about Irresistible and the Black Panthers. It's a PBS thing, and they did a great job. I'll basically just let James talk about these things while I eat, because he's more into this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not into it. I hate it. I absolutely hate politics. I wish people would get it together and get it on. Not that I can make any difference, but people are just, they don't understand. And this is people the right and left wing. Left wing too, just don't read things. When they do read things, they don't read it.
People seem to be pretty close-minded about, like, I've noticed this a lot recently, people suggesting that to be careful about what websites you look at, and if it makes you feel unhappy or something, then avoid it. And it's like, well, you got to think, are you going to be unhappy for the present, or like the first few minutes, or for like your whole life or something, because you don't inform yourself. You have to be informed. And so ignorance is not bliss. No.
Maybe for a couple of seconds, and then reality comes and slaps you upside the head.
Yeah, and then you're having to use all sorts of mind-altering substances, which it could be
maintain the ignorance.
Romance novels, or, you know, there's harmless kind of mind-altering substances. You know, like, yeah. But at the same time, you're missing out on reality when you fill your head with nonsense. And so anyway, my favorite part of the Black Panther, it was great. They did a good job.
Pretty good.
Was, I mean, they leave things without being really taking a side on the issue or anything. They give a good overview, and it should make people want to look into things further on their own. And that's what I really like about PBS. When they do shows, that's what they get me interested in a topic enough that I want to research further. So I think they've done the job. And
yeah, generally what I want to say is, and this is leading up to a remark you made actually. Generally I find with PBS, the one criticism, too short. But what do you have to say about this one?
Well, they put in 2 hours of content. Usually they don't put as much, but
yeah, usually
boy, oh boy. If it falls down, you know what we're reviewing here. So
yeah, and whoever borrows this after us, there's a little tuna here. Supplement here. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to get a lead in, because that was very perceptive.
Yeah.
They finally.
And it doesn't feel too long.
No.
Because there's so much information to cover, and they've done a good job
in the sense
bracketing things. Like at the near the beginning, you have Huey's killed a cop, and like the Black Panthers, they're a bunch of tough guys walking around wearing army kind of clothing and or black leather jackets and
army.
Guns, lots of guns, you know. So they're
cross between gangs and
they want to take the power. They want to take the power away, and they're very revolutionary sort of people.
So they say.
Anarchist sort of
vanguard of the revolution, as they were saying. Rear guard, really, of the revolution, but.
And James will talk about this. He'll bracket the thing even further, I'm sure. He'll talk about what led up to it, and then the results.
What it's led to, we're still living through the legacy, sadly.
But, so anyway, Huey My favorite part was a sign that somebody was holding saying, Mao says free Huey.
Free Huey, Mao.
And
Mao
it's like,
Zedong.
wow, well that's gotta, that Mao's such a genius. I mean,
Well-
doing things like killing the sparrows off and starving his own people as a result.
Tens of
I mean,
millions.
such a genius.
Yeah.
Whatever he says, yeah, you better listen to him.
Oh, yeah.
Especially not in his own country. I mean, who should have the power? Who should have the power? I guess they want to take it away from one and give it to anyway. And then later on in the show, near the end, there are people, teary-eyed about having left the Panthers at one point. There was a good thing about the Panthers. The women were starting to be, for some reason, attracted to it. Because they were thinking, they want to get power for all the people, women's rights, and da-da-da. And if you look back in history at what was happening, and now you understand, well, no, they weren't interested in getting women's rights, the Panthers. No, they weren't. They were a bunch of men with guns, and the women were coming in saying, well, how about we have the guns, and you cook the breakfast for the kids. And they showed a video of the breakfast being cooked, and it was women doing the cooking.
There was the occasional guy in an apron.
And so, but the breakfast for the kids thing, that is an awesome idea. I've been wanting to encourage people to get that for all students. All students, kids should have that. Should be the first class, is let's eat breakfast together. And
I think they should provide 3 meals for kids.
Yeah.
Kids shouldn't have to suffer for the.
And honestly, so it
the
should be like a soup kitchen sort of thing, where the kids are making sure that they get fed. So, the kids, the adults, charity organizations are making sure the kids get fed. So, I don't think that giving food to food banks and stuff like that, and you know what we're talking about. So I'm not going to try to pick it up because it's just going to stay.
It's going to get worse.
Get down again.
The wind usually on a day like this gets worse as the day progresses and regresses.
But a lot of the time, food does not make it to the kids. If you're giving donations to needy people, expect that the kids are not getting those things. If it's clothing that's being given away, well, the guys are probably using it to put drugs in the pockets and leave it around for their drug sales activity, and then that money is not going to the kids anyway, or whatever. It could be anything that you're giving. Expect it's not getting to the kids.
The worst thing is to
Expect
give
it.
money, and that doesn't matter if it's regular charity or if it's transfer payments. And this is politically incorrect, but it's very realistic, because guess what? I don't care about what people feel and stuff like that. Oh, they feel humiliated if they're given stuff in kind. The thing is, I care about the children. I don't care about some stupid political ideology or stuff like that. It's got to get to the children. Yeah. And if you're giving it to a flunky that's a gambler, it's not going to make it to the children.
No.
If you give it to a flunky that's into drugs or into
most cases
alcohol,
in our
it's not going to get to
society
the children.
The people who are having children are aggressive personality types. They do not care for their children. They don't care about them. They are not cherished as passive people cherish their children. So don't expect that it's getting to the children. The meals need to be provided so that the children have a good chance of being healthy and doing better in school, because they're not going to get it. They're not going to get those things from their parents, for the most part.
So charity should be provided in kind, and even if it's only like 10% of the kids, Like, I'm not going to presume to say, I don't want to stereotype poor people or whatever. But if it's only 10% that are gambling, or 5%, there's no way that 5% of the kids should starve or whatever, be malnourished. It's just that simple. So you provide it across the board.
Exactly. And anyway, so there was, at one point, there was a man who was saying, he was talking about when the police came in and there was a big shootout and all this stuff.
This, I believe, was in New York.
I don't
or
know
Chicago. Someplace like that.
You can watch the video if you care to see
Chicago,
where.
I believe.
So, one of the guys interviewed was saying he felt, at that moment, he felt like a free African American, or free Negro, he said.
Free
And
man, whatever.
he said, like I was making my own rules.
Yep.
In a democracy, you cannot make your own rules. You have to abide by the rules set by democracy, and that's so that no one person can dominate other people as easily. It's actually, these rules are here to protect passive people. They're not sufficient, obviously, but we don't want anybody getting more power than another person. We want people to have equal rights. That's what people are striving for. And the women who were getting involved, for the most part, with the Black Panthers, they were saying the age group was teens. That was most people. Well, you're most aggressive as a human from age 15 to 25. So I know I was attracted to more exciting, dangerous sort of people when I was a teen, and I grew up. And so a lot of the women wouldn't have necessarily seen it. I mean, me, reading back on some of the stuff I was reading a year ago or whatever, and at the time, it did not seem at all violent or scary. It didn't scare me at all. But now it's a little bit. Anyway.
Yeah, it was being presented maybe by the person who's talking about it in the wrong way. You know, like, this is a movement for women. No. One other. This is a good documentary because oftentimes my favorite documentaries are the ones that work against message. So the message here is kind of like down the middle, but
I mean, could you get different opinions from different people?
This one is down the middle because you get different opinions from different people. But you know, like the only real takeaway from me it is this was a really negative movement. It was bad for blacks. So, and bad for lots of other people as well. But there's one woman who gives it away. So this is she'd be older than me or about my age. 66. She should be old enough to know. But oh, the guys in their berets and their black coats and lugging the guns. They were so sexy. Well, holy smoke! Somebody gets turned on by that. It's pretty sick to me. But
well, they're teenagers.
Anyway,
Attracted to more
I think that's why they had more women than men in the movement.
Well, eventually, yeah. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, it was all a bunch of guys with guns. And people should have seen that's what it was. You know, but anyway. So then, at the end, you know, the court system, not only do they free Huey, but they free a whole bunch of people that were
freed what was called the New York 21.
Yeah.
Where they're being set up, quite probably. They were saying 156 counts. So that's 7 counts on average for each one of the people that were up on trial. They're all freed. So Huey, I almost said Huey Lewis in the news, but Huey, I mean, he's more of a joke than Huey Lewis. Huey Lewis.
No, he's scary.
Well, he's a sad joke, but
anyway, so he.
What was he up for?
Well, he murdered a cop.
Well,
but he did. Well, they didn't.
Killed a
he
cop.
didn't get convicted of murdering. So yeah, I guess he killed a cop. But so I shouldn't have said murder. But when he was freed, he eventually ends up in a penthouse with his own elevator and security guards.
That's
and
not
stuff.
your description. That's the description.
Yeah, and one of the women was saying, well, whatever went on up there, when you got up there, they'd take your weapons away and stuff, the security guards, right, before you got in there. And so you were completely helpless and you'd be abused by him. And he talked, she said, sexually and, other, right?
Physically,
I mean, she was
really not.
She was thinking, well, Huey changed, and it's like, no, he finally got the power.
When are left-wingers
now you see
going
what
to
he's
understand?
Like. You should have seen it when he was a guy packing around a gun, but you didn't. So, and now you're not seeing it still. Wow. So
here is what you should use. It doesn't matter what color a person is. So the fact that I'm applying the term to blacks in this case, don't jump on it, because it applies to Hitler, it applies to Mussolini, it applies to Daniel Ortega, it applies to Fidel Castro, it applies to Hugo Chavez, it applies to the Proud Boys, or whatever they're called down in the United States, militia people, white militia people. It applies to them all. It applies to Khrushchev. It applies to Stalin.
Yeah.
It applies to Mao. It applies to Ho Chi Minh. It applies to Zhou Enlai. When someone wears a military monkey suit, they're bad. They're advertising that they're bad. And I'm not talking about Michael Jackson. Ooh, I'm bad. They are evil, okay? You got that? They're evil. That's what they're telling you. And especially when they're lugging or when they're packing, as one of the guys said.
Yeah.
When they're packing heat, they're telling you they are evil. You should not support them. If you do,
so honestly,
I know
the video
how stupid
shows
you are.
how he. This was another guy. How one of the guys with the Black Panthers. Well, it might have been more than one. I'm not sure. But they were associating themselves with. First, it was some president of Algeria or something, and then it was.
Okay, this is Elbridge Cleaver.
Okay.
Who became an exile? No, he decided to jump ship, right?
And all sorts of other people. And you watch the people that they were associated with, and that should give you a sense of what they were like.
It's like they're crawling around in a sewer.
Yeah.
With the rats that are denizens.
I mean,
of
at
the
the end, when one of the women's talking about how they were shaking drug dealers and pimps and stuff for money and this and that, and you're going, okay, but guys in a penthouse, where did the money come from for his penthouse, for his security guards? I mean, the security guards might have volunteered because they see him as a powerful figure or whatever. I don't know. But they got to eat too. So where's it all coming from, right? And which brings us to Irresistible. And then James will talk more about the Black Panther stuff, I think. Because he could go on forever about that. Okay. So, we have lots of time.
Good.
Irresistible. At the beginning, you have... I thought Jon Stewart did a pretty good job. It's not great for a movie, but isn't that his first movie? So I think, I think he did an all right job, considering that. And, I mean, he had some serious talent, because who wouldn't want to try to be in one of his movies? Yeah. So, at the beginning, they're talking about how they're liars. They're saying we're liars. That's how we have this job. We spin the news, and we're really good at lying. So that's
So they're politicos. They are
Yeah.
communications flags
yeah.
for the Republican Party and for the Democratic. Okay?
So they're trying. Jon Stewart's trying to not take a side on this. He's just trying to show some important issues, and he talks about campaign money and how it could be rerouted into not-for-profit organizations because they don't have to declare where the money's coming from, and they don't have to declare where it's going. So it's an interesting story. And now one thing that Jon Stewart, we watched all the end stuff and whatever,
The side bits.
the extras. And at one point they were talking about how, well, Jon Stewart himself, he was talking about how, what was it? Something about he'd ask a bunch of people, he'd ask people along the way, could this happen? And they'd be like, and they'd seem kind of sad about it, and he'd realize, oh, then I'm on the right track, right? Because this is believable. And, but there's some things that are not believable, like the old dial-up hookup. That's believable that somebody might have dial-up hookup, because I have no hookup to the internet, so that's an upgrade, dial-up from nothing. For me, it would be. But it wouldn't really be, because I don't want internet in my home. But anyway, the thing that's not believable is that they just wouldn't get it hooked up. Whatever the amount of money that they make and have available at their own disposal, they're going to get it hooked up. So it's not believable at all that he's dealing with dial-up at all. Whatever. So
I'll take your word. I don't know much.
how hard is it to get looked up? Anyway, so go ahead and talk about the stuff. I've given all I need to give.
Yeah. For me, the real issue with campaign contributions is the nomination process and how the Republicans have corrupted it by, I don't know how far back. It probably goes back to McGovern in 1972. He was just an unwinnable candidate. It was awful. And he got stomped by Richard Nixon. I think Richard Nixon set the record. I think it's over 60%, maybe something like 61% popular vote. And I think McGovern was something like 37%. I think there was some equivalent of almost like write-in candidates to the rest of the stuff. And so what the Republicans do, I started noticing with Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton, I ended up supporting because he kind of went for that ugly trough of swill that's in the middle of the electorate, which is the undecided voters. I'm not terribly impressed with undecided voters. If you're undecided in this election year, are you insane? I don't know. You're not as insane as a Trump supporter, but you have no, your moral compass is really, really screwed up. But you've got to appeal to idiots like that. And so initially I'm going Clinton, wow, it's incredible. And what the Republicans wanted, they were giving money to him. They wanted him to be the Democratic nominee. Why? I think it was Patrick Buchanan, who's a real slime bucket. Like a nationalist, I guess, almost like a systemic racist. Most people would say they're all systemic racists, but I said the Republican Party was systemically racist the other day, and You know, I've been reading this Bob Woodward thing. I'm trying to get through 10 books in the space of 3 weeks, and I'm going, yeah, okay. Colin Powell, you know,
Yeah,
was a
and
Republican,
Condi Rice.
and
Yeah.
Condoleezza Rice,
Yeah.
and then the White House Attorney General during Bush Jr.'s, or some of it at least, regime was, what was his name? Gonzalez, and yeah, you know, like John Sununu, who was in the, I believe, the Bush administration. John Sununu was an Arab, and he was actually a governor of New Hampshire. Way back when. This is before George Bush Sr. Systemic racism. You stupid putzes. You know, like, and I could go on and on. Like, Clarence Thomas, is that the name? The guy on the Supreme Court. He's a slime bucket. But he's black, he's a Republican. A wild and crazy Republican. Systemic racism. What are you talking about? Condoleezza Rice is part of the system. Colin Powell. You know, like, do you know in 1976, he was the most popular politician, according to polls, in all of the United States.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That's a long time ago. Did I say 1976? 1996. Okay. Yeah, so what is that? That's like 25 years ago almost? You stupid idiots. Systemic racism. What? There's lots of racism in the United States. The southeastern United States. It's incredible. But when you say it's systemic, then you lose all means of distinguishing racial prejudice from being uncomfortable in certain situations to people who want to kill people that are different color. You just lose all sense of perspective and proportion. You stupid idiots. This is George Bush Jr.'s, some of the most, theoretically at least, powerful people. The secretary, what was Colin Powell? Secretary of State. So he's responsible for theoretically at least, for foreign policy. Does it? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't get more powerful than that. As it turns out, he was sidelined by Rumsfeld and Cheney, but you know,
So,
he was there at least as a figure. Condoleezza Rice, she's responsible for kind of coordinating the, you know, like CIA, or at least giving information to the president about the CIA, the Army Intelligence Office of Naval Intelligence. Sorry about that. I wanted to finish it up.
Cool. African Americans can have power in the United States, evidently. I mean, you can just look around, you can see it.
Obama, he was
if you work
50%
within
black.
the system, you can have power. The system is happy to have
Only
African,
too happy.
and
Ted
share
Cruz
the
is
power with
seems to be a perennial
but
a candidate to be a Republican nominee for president.
the problem
Ted
is
Cruz.
people
That's Spanish for cross.
people who set up organizations like the Black Panthers with guns and or right now just getting out and protesting in groups